Hi, I'm Jim Ellison. I'm head of the technical and educational departments here at Sterngold. I would like to show you a new bar system. It's called the LV OCAD. The Hader bar has been the most popular bar attachment in dentistry for the past 40 years. However, it has some basic problems that all technicians, including me, have had to try to deal with. The new LV OCAD bar is an improvement on the Hader bar and can be cast or milled. It automatically creates indirect retention while still allowing a hinging function. All the steps from paralleling to making a duplicate model to fitting the clips onto the bar have been simplified. The OCAD paralleling mandrel works on both the OCAD and the Hader bar. In the past, when you had multiple sections of Hader bar, it was easy to not have them all lined up vertically. This would lead to path of insertion problems with the clips being folded in and crushed. The bar can be cast using any hard alloy, or it can be milled. The STL file is available and is currently in the XOCAD library. The step profile on the bar always faces the labial and has a 4-degree taper so that it is easy for the patient to insert the overdenture. The height of the bar measures 4 millimeters. However, you can shorten it to 3 millimeters if vertical space is limited. Of course, you would also shorten the sides of the metal housing. Therefore, the overall minimum vertical space requirement could be as little as 4.3 millimeters. The round part of the bar is 1.8 millimeters in diameter, which is the same as the Hader bar. When the implants are close together, there is often not enough room to place the normal 5 millimeter long Hader clip. Another OCAD improvement is that the riders are available in 5 millimeter and 3 millimeter lengths. I made this model to demonstrate the proper steps for fabricating an LV OCAD bar. I surveyed the model to determine an appropriate path of insertion. I cut a section of bar and put it in place 90 degrees from the occlusal plane and as close to the tissue as possible. All attachment systems must be directly under the teeth, otherwise the overdenture will not be stable. Therefore, a setup must be done and a matrix made of the denture setup so that you can be sure the bar is positioned under where the teeth will be. You will notice a black rubber O-ring on the paralleling mandrel. I found that rolling it down about halfway held the plastic bar section securely. After positioning the pattern, I rolled it back up so that it was easy to pull the mandrel off of the bar pattern. To ensure that the bar was under the denture teeth, I had to move the bar toward the labial a bit. I used 2 short Hader bar sections to accomplish this, but you could just use wax. You will notice that I added a micro stainless steel ERA-DE off the distal of each abutment. This will provide support for the overdenture further back, therefore helping with mastication. The closer the support is to the second premolar, first molar area, the better. The resiliency of the ERAs will allow hinging in the posterior as the denture rotates around the bar. Sprue, invest, and cast the pattern in an appropriate hard alloy. When divesting, you can sandblast the investment off of most of the bar structure. However, avoid blasting the base of the gold abutments and the ERAs. The investment can be manually or chemically removed from these areas. Cut the bar off the runner bar and finish and polish. You will notice that I got an air bubble toward one side of the labial aspect of the bar. I did this to point out how important careful investing of the step area of the bar is. Well, what I actually showed was how, when you go too fast, you make mistakes. However, I was easily able to recreate the proper shape of the bar during finishing. Here is the finished bar structure on the master model. Some people might process the denture on the master model. I strongly recommend that you don't do this. The model is often damaged or destroyed during processing, leaving you with no model on which to deliver the case. There are several ways to make a duplicate processing model. I will cover two here. The first method begins with snapping as many of the OCAD processing riders onto the bar as will fit. This makes a place into which you can snap the final clips, although you don't have to put a clip into every housing. Unlike the header bar processing riders, the OCAD riders are made to fit onto the bar. They also block out the undercuts in that section of bar on both sides. This is a big improvement over the header bar. Remember to place the short leg toward the labial so that it sits right on the step. Some people might simply make a duplicate impression of this model using a silicone duplicating material and pour it in stone. The processing riders will most likely stay on the bar when you remove the impression. Remove them from the bar and place them back into their proper position in the impression before pouring. However, this is not my favorite method. I prefer to use another method, which I think creates a better processing model. You begin by snapping header bar impression copings onto the bar and micro ERA partial denture impression copings onto the ERAs. You would need to use the ERA impression copings even if you are using the other method. Of course, in both methods, you must block out any space between the tissue and the bar and the ERAs before making the impression. On this model, I used wax. The ERA impression copings will probably stay on the bar when you remove the model from the impression. Remove both ERA impression copings and snap a micro ERA partial denture processing jig into each one. Carefully reseat each unit into the impression. Align and mark the length of an appropriate section of the aluminum header bar processing jig. Cut this straight section of the jig. It is more likely that the header bar impression copings will stay in the impression. Snap the jig into the impression copings within the impression. Pour the stone cast. In this version of the processing model, both the bar and the ERAs are represented with a metal replica. If you use the other method, the processing model would not have the metal header jig in place, but you would be looking at some gray OCAD processing riders on a stone replica of the bar. The next step when using this method is to snap OCAD processing riders onto the replica of the bar. In this case, two standard size riders fit nicely. The cobalt chrome OCAD metal housing can be processed into the denture, or it can be soldered or welded to a frame. Slide the metal housing onto each processing rider from the side. You will notice that one end of the housing is open and the other has a small lip covering part of the end of the housing. This means that the housing will only slide on in one direction. The seating of the metal housing on the processing rider is a little tricky, so I would like to demonstrate this step for you. First, we snap the gray plastic processing rider onto the bar. Now, the metal housing, as I said just a little while ago, has an open end, as you see here, and then the other end has just a bit of a lip that covers it. So the clip will only slide on from the open end. Now, the first time I did this, I didn't do it well, and I had all sorts of trouble. We're sliding it on from the side, so I position it. Now, the first time I tried this, I had to push really, really hard, and what I found is that I had the metal housing here onto the gray plastic, so it was really hard. This should slide on fairly easily, but you need to get, thumb and forefingers, and you just got to push it on. Got to use your fingernails. Let's see. Okay, so I've got that on. You can see, I'll give you this. See, there's the open end, and you can see that before what I had is I had this part on the metal underneath the plastic part. It was a groove in the plastic rider. So if it's really difficult for you to put it on, then back off and line it up. Just wiggle this housing a little bit until it slides on with relative ease. You will also have to seat a micro ERA partial denture metal jacket onto each ERA jig. You can now process the denture using whatever technique you prefer. Remove the processing riders from the metal housings. Use the LV Universal Insertion tool to seat the final riders into the metal housings. This is the only tool which fits both the 5mm and the 3mm length clips. The yellow clips provide normal retention and are equivalent to the yellow hater clips. You may want to start with the white clips, which provide less retention, until the patient gets used to inserting and removing the overdenture. It is quick and easy to slit a clip along its length using a scalpel blade, pull out the pieces, and to snap in a new clip. That is if more retention is needed or when they wear out, which will probably be in several years. Here I am snapping 2 yellow OCAD clips into the metal housings. The final step is to core out the black ERA fabricating males and to snap in the white final males. In this way, the ERAs become resilient, allowing 0.4 of a millimeter of vertical movement. Because the labial extension of the metal housing rests against the labial surface of the bar, it creates indirect retention. The posterior will remain in contact with the tissue, not allowing any forward rotation. However, because there is space between the lingual side of the metal housing and the lingual surface of the bar, the LV OCAD will allow hinging during mastication. Because the distal ERA attachments are resilient, the occlusal load will be shared with the ridge. The indirect retention will allow you to remove the palate in maxillary cases. When relining or rebasing an LV OCAD overdenture with distal ERAs, begin by coring out whatever color final ERA male is in the denture and snap in black fabricating males. Generally, the OCAD riders remain in place. Make the wash impression, being sure to block out the undercuts. As I showed you before, snap an ERA processing jig into each black male and cut and insert a section of hater bar processing jig into the clips. Pour the stone model. Complete the reline using whatever method you prefer. At the end, core out the black ERA males and remove the clips from the bar area. Insert whatever color attachments provide the appropriate retention. To order the LV OCAD, or if you have further questions, go to sterngold.com or call 800-243-9942.